We are reacting to Rotten Stephanie. You guys like Rotten Mango. So we're gonna watch Rotten Mango, Korea's Death Mall. 502 dead, 40 missing inside a high-end department store. Were people getting like kidnapped or something? What was going on?
Bada bing, bada boom.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Mina was shuffling through the children's clothing racks and she feels this little tug on her skirt. And she's asking her son, okay, yeah, what is it, sweetie? Do you need something? There's no response. So Mina pulls her eyes away from the clothes and she looks at her son. He's like 6 years old at this point. And his eyes are bulging out of his head.
What?
He looks petrified. And she's like, what's wrong? And this little kid, he's Korean. He says, Oma, we've got to go home right now. Why? What's wrong?
Wait a minute, Stephanie. We just started. You throwing me into a lot of shit right now.
Do you have to go potty? Like, I'll be done in 10 minutes. Can you hold it? No, the ajashi said that we need to leave right now. Mina looks around. There's definitely nobody near them, and there's definitely not a middle-aged man. All of the employees at this children's clothing store, they're young women. So she's confused. What ajashi are you talking about? Like, I just need to grab a few more things.
And ajashi is a old man.
Old middle-aged man.
God, dude, he always scares me. This motherfucker. What's his name? So we have Stephanie, and then what's her husband's name? He just pops out of nowhere. Listen, I'm not gonna say Stephanie's videos are unsettling, but sometimes they just go straight into the action. No hello or highs. You know what I mean? Like, she gets the hook going, but it just scared the out of me sometimes. It's Robert. His name's Robert. Yo, Stephanie, get Robert. He's scaring me. This motherfucker scaring me sometimes.
And he looks up at her again and says, that ajashi right there told me to leave. And he's pointing into the air. Mina looks, and there is nobody.
What?
She says, are you sure you saw an ajashi? What did he look like? He keeps saying he was bleeding. He keeps trying to hug the nice cashier lady.
What?
Mina didn't leave because she's in this very fancy luxury shopping mall. And maybe...
That's fancy, bitch. I'm gonna be honest. That look like a Pepto-Bismol bottle. Out of here. I would never shop there.
Kids just make up some things. Maybe he wanted to go to a toy store instead. Maybe he was bored. Maybe he wanted to go home and watch TV. It just didn't make any sense why there would be a bleeding man in the middle of this store. I mean, this mall is known for, you walk in, very normal to see coats going for $1,000 a coat.
Dang.
Table tea sets going for $8,000, $9,000.
I'll knock all them shits off the table, on God. You have the audacity to be that expensive in front of me, in this economy? I can't eat.
People dressed up to go shopping at this establishment. There certainly weren't any middle-aged bleeding ajashis trying to hug cashiers. It's just not that type of place. But these were the rumors that would float around Korea even to this day.
Oh, nah.
Children dragging their parents out of this mall, talking about how they saw a bloody man telling them to get out.
What?
How they saw bloody people climbing onto workers' backs, trying to almost get on their back like a piggyback ride.
No.
There were rumors
Are
that
they
children
ghosts?
were being warned to stay away from this mall. Because very soon,
I just got chills.
over 502 people would be dead and 30 people would go missing inside of these very walls.
Holy sh**. What a way to start a video. Dude, she always has a crazy hook. By the way, YouTube, I know y'all like these videos. Big shouts out to Stephanie and what she does with these videos, Rotten Mango. Y'all seem to like this, and I'm not gonna with it a little bit. Sometimes Stephanie be going on some rants. I don't know what the fuck she be talking about sometimes, but other times she be cooking for real. So if y'all want more of this, just let me know. Let me know what videos are good, what videos aren't. You know what I mean? Because I don't know if one's better than the other. I'm gonna just stop talking. My fault. Play the video.
As always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. This is another Korean case. We had multiple Korean researchers assist in gathering of the facts on this one. But as always, please let us know if there's anything that we didn't cover or something that got lost in translation. I mean, it's a huge case, so I'm sure it's bound that we're going to have things that we didn't touch up on, but just let us know in the comments. So with that being said, let's get into it. June 29th in South Korea is almost peak summertime. I mean, almost every single person that walked into this Hamplung Mall said the same thing that day. 왜 이렇게 더워?
What's that
which
mean?
is, why is it so hot? Like, why is it so hot? A lot of people were coming to the mall to avoid the heat outside. And usually these massive indoor malls, they blast the AC during the summer. You walk in, you feel that ice cold air smack you on the way in.
Shit, that sound amazing. You said real, Demi? That's true? I wish my mama did that. I just be hot as shit. I got a fan pointing straight at my balls. Just be hot as shit. Legs spread open. Summertime be killing the out of me.
Not today. The mall was more humid, more hot, clammy.
My fault.
It was so hot, it was difficult to breathe inside of the mall. It's like the AC was broken. The workers are profusely sweating, apologizing to the customers. Sorry, the AC is broken. I'm sure it's going to turn back on any second now. And despite all the heat, about 1,000 people were inside that mall when the whole thing came crumbling down.
What?
Everyone had 20 seconds to get out of that mall.
Wait,
that's all they got.
what?
20 seconds is the length of the happy birthday song in Korean. If you had 20 seconds to, do you think you could go from inside of the changing room, inside of a store, get out of the store, down the hall, to the emergency staircase, down the stairs to the ground floor? Let's say you're 4 stories high.
Well, let
3
me think
stories,
about
fine,
that.
Right?
Hold on. Let me think about that. Hold on. Because I feel like I'm pretty fast. Let me see. I don't think so. Maybe I could make it. Let me think. Kenji, no. My fat ass could never. Damn, you big? It's okay. I'll get us out together. I'm lying. I'm pushing you. Get out my way. You one of the people I'm pushing. Get the fuck out way, you fat. I gotta go. My fault.
And at least a few more steps further to avoid impact. Could you do that in 20 seconds? So Pyongo, he was a 막내 at his job, which means he was the youngest amongst all of his coworkers, which is why all the colleagues kind of like took it easy on him when he was pouting and whining the whole day. He's like, it's not fair. We work at the restaurant on the 5th floor. The AC is broken. All the other restaurants on this floor are closed. Why are we open? Why are we the only one? On top of that, I mean, do customers really want to eat right now? It's so hot.
True.
So the AC just broke that day.
Yeah. All day it had been off.
Okay, so it's not like ongoing. It's
No.
just, it's okay.
That one
Yeah,
day.
I'm calling out immediately. I'm calling out expedition. No AC in the building. Fuck no, I'm not getting no huss when I'm sweating like that. I'm good. Thank you. I don't even need the paycheck for real.
So he's in the front, keeping himself busy, when the head chef runs out from the kitchen. Get out, get out, get out. Pyongo's like, okay, I'm not even going to look up. He just casually says, okay, give me a second. Like, I just need to finish this up. The chef runs to Pyongo, pushes him on the back and says, you idiot, I said run. And he looks up and he sees people booking it. Like there's like 5 customers, they're booking it to the emergency stairwell. So he starts jumping over chairs, jumping over tables, trying to join them at that staircase. He has no idea what's going on. He just knows that they're all running. And as he's running, one by one, the lights, the recessed lighting in the ceiling, they're shattering.
Oh, shit.
And it's getting darker and darker. And Pyongo would have 20 seconds to make it out alive. Jiwon, let's call her Gia, was another employee at the mall. She worked in the basement level. So she sold crystals at one of those like home goods shops. And that day, she took her break early because it was so hot.
She got lucky.
I mean, she felt like all day. If she even moved fast, if she even thought fast, she would break out into a full-blown sweat.
Jeez.
So she tried to move slowly, reserve this energy. She had to fight every intrusive thought that she had to not just walk out of that store, quit, and never look back. That's how hot it was.
How hot was it?
She takes her break early. And
Like, what was the temperature, chat? Does anyone know? Because I'm gonna be honest, I bitch in like 114-degree house once, and that was ridiculous. It smelled crazy in there. My fault.
as she's walking back into the store, the manager, 언니, which is like an older sister, right, starts running towards her screaming, turn around, run, run. The last thing Gia remembers were these little broken shards of crystal flying at her. And she didn't understand what was happening. Just that all the crystals in the shop looked like they had exploded. Gia would have 20 seconds to make it out alive.
Okay, but what's going on?
19-year-old, let's call her Sarah. Sarah had just graduated from high school, and now she's working at one of these high-end children's clothing shops, basement level of the mall. She wasn't even supposed to be working that day. Her colleague called her and was like, hey, can you switch shifts with me?
No.
So she did. She was coming back
She
from her
better than
lunch
me.
break when she felt something really strange. There was a cold wind. it felt really nice because she had been sweating in this hot, humid, dank basement floor all day without the AC. But did you just catch on?
What?
Well, yeah, why is there a cold wind, right?
Exactly. She works on level B1, the basement floor. There's no exterior doors that could be opened to let in a breeze. It was a strong breeze, too.
Wait,
And
what
the
happened?
AC wasn't back on. Sarah would have 20 seconds to make it out alive.
Okay, we get the 20 seconds. Stephanie, damn. Tell me what's going on, please. Yeah, I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm dying. You got 20 seconds to tell me. I'm about to run down my goddamn stairs in a second.
There is a man, 21. His name is Choi Myung-suk, but we're going to call him Michael.
Michael.
He actually started working at the shoe store in this Hampung department store. He was studying architecture, but he just needed to make some extra money on the side. And he was on his shift when everything went dark. He didn't even have 20 seconds to run. Nothing registered in him.
Damn,
It
that
was just
motherfucker got like
lights
3.
out, literally, figuratively. When he woke back up, everything was pitch black. He was laying on cold concrete. He's basically boxed in by concrete. He couldn't move.
Chat, I'm gonna be honest, my worst fear is like if a building just falls. I don't know what's happening here. Maybe the building's falling. I'm not sure. I saw the picture. But dude, having like an earthquake happen while I'm taking a on God. And I'm like falling through the building mid-wipe. Oh, me. You know how embarrassing that's gonna be? Like when I'm found, right? No, bro, when I'm found, I just know my noodle's gonna be so shrunketh and scared. Dude, my noodle's gonna be it's gonna be so embarrassing.
On the sides of him, there was concrete. Above him, there was concrete. Below him, concrete. He just had to lay there in a fetal position, having no idea what had just happened.
Dang.
There was no light, no food, no water. He tried to kind of push up against the jagged concrete, but he was worried that any sort of movement would cause the concrete to completely crush him. Even the air supply felt stale, dusty, and limited. The panic starts to kick in. He's like getting claustrophobia. And in any other situation, I think that this would have been terrifying. But he started hearing a woman's screams.
Oh no.
And she's screaming, "Save me! Save me!" He said that he felt kind of happy that he wasn't alone in the dark. So he starts screaming back, "Hello?" There were now 2 voices responding back at him. So one was Lee Sung-yeon, a 25-year-old woman that worked in the kitchenware shop, also on the first basement floor, and an ajumani. So that's like an older auntie customer.
So these are a lot of like basement workers, right?
Yes.
Is it because there's a higher chance of survival?
Oh.
Everyone on 1 through 5, unless they were out of the building, they would die. So
Holy shit.
they were all trapped. Just like Michael, the ajumani, the woman, they're all trapped. The ajumani could barely talk because she was actively being squashed by the concrete, like on her chest.
Ajumani is
The customer,
She's
an
an
older
old-
woman. Yeah. I would say maybe like 50s, 60s. And she told them in all these gasp breaths, like, "There's a heavy piece of concrete on my chest. I can't talk."
Oh shit.
So the 2, Michael and the other kitchen shop worker, they tried to help her not panic so that she's not going to hyperventilate, because there's no way for her to even like take in a big breath of air. So in small breaths, in very kind of like she's drowning, she tells the others, "My daughter turned 30 this year."
Oh no.
And there was just this lingering silence, because it's a reminder of everything that was outside. And they don't know what to say to that.
Jeez.
So they fall silent. Michael feels these tears coming down the sides of his face. And he says, "Then let's get out alive."
Oh, bro, I like Michael. I'm gonna be honest. I wouldn't know what to say. I'm terrible in life or death situations. I can't be serious for nothing. She talk about stuff I can't breathe. I'll be like, that's because I take your breath away. Like, I don't know what the I would say. Michael got the one-liners that's like, "Let's get out of here. We're gonna do it together." You know, my dumb ass would just say some stupid shit, dude. Oh God, I'm probably the worst person to be in this situation with. I'm so sorry, Kenji. I just know, bro. Like, chat, when I got into a motorcycle accident, I'm talking like I'm shaking, bro. I'm talking like I have so much adrenaline pumping. My arm is ripped open. My ass, my knee all up, right? And I'm over here making jokes. I'm like shaking like this, and I'm making jokes. And like, "Yo, do I look cool?" Like, but I'm around. My mom's there, my sister's there. They're all crying, and then I'm over here making jokes with the doctor. Like, I'm an idiot, bro. I can't take serious. You were in an accident? Yeah, I had a motorcycle accident.
And the three promised each other, okay.
Like I have a Snapchat, bro. I have a Snapchat of me in the back of the ambulance with my one good arm going up, and I'm like, "Yo, what's up?" And I pointed to the dude in the ambulance. It's like, I swear to God, I swear on my life.
And the three promised each other, okay, us three, we're gonna get out alive. And then everything went black again. Michael and the others, they kept falling asleep, coming to, falling asleep, passing out. I wonder if it's the air supply that was cutting them off. It was hard to even gauge how long they had been in there. Michael asked the others, hello? How long have we been in here? The 25-year-old worker responded, but her voice sounded really weak.
Oh, no.
I think a day, maybe 2. I don't know. It feels like a week. Ajumani, are you okay? Silence.
No.
And then they started panicking. Ajumani, you have to wake up. You gotta wake up. Your daughter just turned 30.
No.
Michael would never hear her voice again. She was gone, and she would never get to see her daughter turn 31. Not long after, the 25-year-old kitchen worker called out for Michael and said, Michael? Yeah? I think I'm gonna go now. Please tell my family I love them.
No.
Michael said that after that, the fear of death had never been so strong. Like he could almost taste it. It gripped his entire being. He said it's very hard to explain. He had never felt anything like that. He was all alone. The 2 others that had, quote, survived, they were now dead. He felt like it was only a matter of time until he died, but it's a slow, agonizing wait. He started feeling delusional from the anxiety, the hunger, and then all of a sudden, he just felt so thirsty. He didn't even feel scared anymore. It was all he could think about was water, thirst. It's like he was going crazy.
Jeez.
Right at that time, someone answered his prayers. While he was feeling delirious, water started dripping onto his head. He didn't even know if he was dreaming. He genuinely thought, am I hallucinating? Like, you know, when you see the lakes at the desert and you keep walking towards it? He thought it was that. But he scooted so that the water would drip directly into his mouth instead of his forehead. And he started drinking the disgusting water that was dripping into his mouth. He felt around with his hands in the dark, and there were these few pieces of like dusty, I don't even want to call it like paper, more like cardboard boxes. And he grabbed them, wet them in the water, and he slowly laid there, ripping it, shoving it in his mouth, chewing and eating it. He was so desperate to just fill his stomach with anything.
Bro, how long was he down there for? Holy shit.
Acid was just killing him. Now, side note, it's not fresh water or even tap water. It has been through layers of concrete, dust, rust, and that's if there's no dead bodies on top of him. It was very risky water, but he had no choice. And that is what he would do for the next 11 days.
11 days?
In silence, alone in the dark.
Why was no one saving him? What the fuck?
Eating rusty, wet paper. It was dead silent for Michael. He had no idea that on the other side of all these layers and layers of concrete and twisted metal, there were thousands of people trying to save him. All hell had just broken loose. This was happening on a random Tuesday afternoon. There were commuters, office workers, families driving near the mall, out walking on the streets. They hear this crazy, almost deafening noise. They look to their left. I mean, some of them it's their right. And this entire shopping mall, one of the most iconic buildings at the time, because it's like this salmon pink color. Everyone knew that it wasn't even like an avalanche where, you know, which I know those things happen very quickly. But, you know, you watch those videos and you see things are slowly falling and you can't stop it, but it comes closer and closer. This was 1 second the building is standing up tall, totally fine. The next second, it's on the ground. All you see are skies. The first thing on everyone's mind was North Korea. We are under attack. This is a full-blown war. North Korea is attacking us. So a lot of people are running away from the building because they don't know, is North Korea going to attack another building? But a lot of people were running towards the building to try and help anyone they could. And it was like a group of zombies were seen walking out of the mall.
Wow.
Their faces, their hair, their whole body was white, like powder white. Some of them had even patches of bright red blood on them, but the rest of their bodies, powder white. Even their eyelashes were white. It's like someone threw bags of flour at them. There was so much sand, rubble, cement, particles.
It's like my elbow's really ashy as shit. Powder. It's like I got smacked by a powder donut.
In the air that anyone within an 80 feet radius from the mall was covered in white powder.
Wow.
At this point, breaking news is playing on every single TV station news network. Sampung department store has just collapsed. There are an estimated 1,000 people inside at the time of the collapse. As of right now, investigators do not know the cause of the attack. There is speculation that this could be the work of a terrorist attack by North Korea. Hundreds of ambulances, fire trucks, they rushed the scene. About 4,000 official personnel. So, I mean, you're talking firefighters, police, soldiers. They start arriving at the scene. They bring in helicopter cranes, heavy machinery, and the whole situation was so tricky. There's two main issues that the rescuers are confronted with. So the first being that the left and right edges of this building have not collapsed. It's like someone cut out just two edges of a cake and then squashed the middle. But the sides are standing, and now they're starting to kind of tip each way.
No.
So they're gonna fall and hit some people. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're standing in the middle of this rubble trying to dig out people, this falls. I mean, people are gonna die.
Oh, and they can't even. Can they even knock it down?
No.
Because that will fall on
Yeah.
more people.
More people. So at any moment, it's at the risk of collapsing. I mean, it's like a domino waiting to topple over. It looks like a strong gust of wind could take it down.
Jeez.
It's dangerous. And the second problem was, even though that we have all of this heavy machinery, right? We've got the helicopter, fork cranes, none of it could be used. The experienced rescuers, they point out, if we use this equipment and we're not precise, if
You could
there's
kill
someone
someone.
underneath a piece of concrete, the machine could easily them. Or let's say we're trying to pick up that concrete, we could literally rip someone in half with a crane. We could literally rip their head off. Have you ever played pickup sticks? You know, you get the same size sticks, you throw them,
yes.
and then you have to take each stick out without moving the other ones. That's what this was a game of. And the stakes were really high. The rescuers said, I mean, people are going to die if we don't do this right. So the only way to save people was to use light machinery and go by hand and just pray that the edges of the building would not collapse in on them. So originally, the morale amongst rescuers was very, very high. I mean, it would be a miracle if anyone survived, but they at least had to try. But once they got to work, they said, you know, they noticed so many mannequin parts that were under the rubble. So looking from afar on the street, they could see like arms, legs, and torsos just peeking out from the rubble. And it's unsettling, but it's like, it's to be expected. It's a shopping mall.
Right?
But once they lifted layers of concrete,
Oh, no.
It was a mannequin.
they were people. The night before Michael was trapped, security guard Ian was alone doing his rounds. And he wasn't nervous. You know, there's cameras everywhere, big, massive gates that are closed at night. Nobody ever tries to break into one of the top department stores in Seoul. But still, it's 3 a.m. and the empty building is kind of creepy. All the mannequins are practically glowing under the dim lights. And he has to walk from each floor to each floor. And like the echo of his footsteps, that's the creepiest part. Every step, it sounds like someone is walking behind him.
Whoa.
And he's walking through this newly renovated hallway when he hears like this groan. It sounds like one of those fantasy movies where they have like monsters or dragons that are groaning or hissing. And he freezes. Okay, there's no alarm sounding, so he can't be a robber. And that's not even like a human
Is it?
noise. It sounded like it was coming from the top floor. So he speed runs all the way up to the 5th floor. And so earlier I said the building is 10 to 20 stories high, right? It's 10 to 20 apartment stories high. But because it's one of those fancy department stores, it's only 5 levels above ground. But each level, you're talking like crazy, like 30-foot ceilings.
Super high
Double
ceilings.
the regular.
Yes, double, triple. So he's running up to the 5th floor and
This unlocked a new fear for me, bro. I don't even want to go to like shopping malls now. Dude.
he looks up. He sees all these restaurants that are closed. And at first glance, everything seems normal. There's no one hiding. There's no shadowy figures, anything like that. And then he sees the moonlight reflecting off the glass of the restaurant. But not just even the moonlight. He sees the moon reflecting off. He's like, that is so weird. And he looks up. There is a giant table-sized hole in the ceiling. It looked like someone or something had taken a bite out of the ceiling. This is the night before the collapse. Now, if you ask any Korean person, if you had a time machine, what would you do? What was the first thing that you do with the time machine?
I'll probably go back in time, invest in like Bitcoin, because I'm invested like 15 cents and then have like millions now. I would also get the numbers for like a lottery ticket and then be a millionaire. Also, just like some streamers, I would like make sure my name is like Ninja or something and dye my hair blue when Fortnite comes out and then completely just him. Just to fuck his whole destiny, you know? Like, I don't know why. I really like Ninja, but like, you know, I just do weird. I have so much power. My fault.
An overwhelming majority of them would answer, I would go and buy up all the land in Gangnam. Yeah. So 50 years ago, if you purchased land in the city of Gangnam, which is like the Beverly Hills, the Upper East Side of South Korea, you would be part of South Korea's ultra elite today.
Wow.
But how would you even know to do that? 50 years ago, Gangnam was not a fun, glamorous place. It was kind of more of a dangerous place. Gangnam is south of the Han River in Seoul. And back then, the rich people only lived above the river. They never lived below. Anything below was considered not that classy. But somehow, this businessman by the name of Lee Jun, this influential rich businessman, he worked in the South.
All that money and you bald. My fault. Sorry. I hope, bro, watch him be like, oh, he was just the nicest person ever or something. I'm sorry.
Korean government. He had ties to the American CIA. He owned a massive construction company, and he focused on doubling his business every year, which is insane. To double your business every year, that's crazy. He mainly did this by buying up land in underdeveloped, not so desirable areas like Gangnam and turning it into what it is today. And side note, he's not that smart. He's not a real estate whisperer. He was a high-up government employee, and he would get word that the government wants to develop Gangnam or this area of Seoul, and he would just go in and buy a ton of land. Most of the time, he would just flip it and sell it back to the government at an inflated price. But he was going in when Gangnam real estate was selling for less than $6 a square foot.
Wow.
Now, it's about $1,000 a square foot.
Wow.
I did some math. That means if you bought an apartment that's about 1,500 square feet, that would have been about $10,000. Today, that same piece of land, $1.5 million.
What? I'm bored. Oh my God, I'm gonna go invest in Gangnam.
So Lee, with his insider information, he bought over 2 million square feet in Gangnam back when it was dirt cheap.
Wow. He's like a
He's
billionaire.
like, you know what? Why would I sell this land back? I should develop it. I should do something. There's new fancy schools coming into Gangnam. Like some colleges are coming in. We got some private schools coming in. We got all these. So Gangnam is kind of known as like the new money area. The old money Koreans actually still live above the river, they say. In Gangnam, you've got all like the lawyers, doctors, like the professionals moving in. So he's like, I need to make a department store. Because what do new money residents like? They like labels. They want to show people they have money. So back in the day, you know, Korean stores, you go there, it's utilitarian. You go and you buy what you need. I'm going to make it super aesthetic. I want it to be a one-shop stop. I want them to come. It's a social event. They eat dinner. There's fancy restaurants. There's a fancy supermarket. I want everything in there. So he gets this construction company called Usong Construction. Apparently, they're actually really good. They've got a very clean reputation, or relatively clean. A lot of people vouch for their durability. Like right now, if you see new apartments, it might even say like Usong Constructed because people really like it. So Lee tells Usong, I want a 4-story commercial building. They're like, okay. They start drawing out the plans. They start building the building. And halfway through, they've got the main foundation up. Lee walks into their office, sits down. You know what? Let's add another floor.
Oh.
Make it 5.
Oh,
Better number, right? 4 is a bad number. 5 is good. Usong is looking at him like, are you dumb? You cannot just add another floor. That's not how it works.
Dude, all the plans are like, the whole building is gonna be no way, dude.
You want another floor, we have to start over. We have to bulldoze everything down and start over. If you add another floor without altering the current plans, the building would have way too much weight and stress on the foundation, and it's going to be compromised.
No way.
So Lee gets up and says, okay, well then you're fired.
What?
He goes and he hires a new construction team, one that has a very hard time saying no to him. His own construction team. He acts like he is the construction engineer, the architect. If you say no to him, you're fired and potentially blacklisted from the industry.
Oh, this bald bitch. I knew he was evil just by the top of his head. I knew it. You rich, greedy bastard. Oh my God.
And so they made his ultimate dream come true. His team built the Sampung department store. It would be the second biggest department store in the nation at the time. And it would bring in insane amounts of money. The first year they were open, they were projected to do about 150 million in revenue. That's calculated with inflation. The second year, they doubled. 300 million a year in revenue. Sampung department store was built with the intention that you don't have to go anywhere else, okay? Everything's in these two buildings. So there's building A and building B, and they're connected on each floor by these long hallways. But the hallways are not the width of building A and B.
By the way, I'm sorry I'm so quiet. I'm just food up right now. I'm really, really hungry. So I'm eating. By the way, oh, YouTube, look at me right now. Come closer. You see me? When I go like this, my mouth is closed. It's just my face tracking tracks my chin and but I promise my mouth is closed. I don't chew with my mouth open, you bitch. Okay, I'm sorry. Back to the video.
So it looks like, you know, kind of from an aerial view, it looks like two squares with a short line in between, like a short stick connecting them. Now, you don't ever have to leave the building to get to the other one, but it's interesting. Building A was the mall. The fifth floor would have all these fancy sit-down restaurants. You can meet up with your friends before you go shopping. And then the fourth floor, luxury household goods, fancy wine glasses. Third floor, men's clothing. Second floor, women's clothing. First floor, foreign imported goods and cosmetics. Now, there are 4 basement levels. B2 through B4, they're more for like storage, machine rooms, parking spaces. And B1 is kind of open to the public. It's a mall. So a lot of Korean malls, they have supermarkets on the basement level. So you literally run all your errands. This is kind of genius. They also have cheaper food courts in the basement. So more like food stands. So B1 is open to the public, and there's always a lot of customers and workers shuffling in and out of that floor. Now, building B is more commercial real estate. So you got office buildings, you have a gym, but that's about it. Not a lot of foot traffic, not a lot of aesthetics. It looks like just your office plaza. Okay, so what's so wrong about it? Here's what's wrong about it. The escalators. Most buildings, and I never noticed this until I was researching this, but there's usually 2 escalators per floor. And like 2 going up, 2 going down, especially big malls. And I always thought, okay, so it's more people can go up and down the escalators, manage the traffic, right? And I'm sure that plays a role. But a big reasoning behind it is apparently having 2 escalators going up and down on either side helps distribute the weight better.
Oh.
Okay. Well, it's a thing, okay? Apparently having 2 escalators on a floor helps distribute the weight, making it safer. And Lee said, actually, no, that's so expensive. I just need 1.
What a cheap.
So he kept putting just 1
You cheap bald. I knew it. I'm telling you, these bald. I'm not bald phobic, but these motherfucking bald bitches, bald ass bald bitch. Sorry.
Escalator on each floor.
You have
In
millions of
massive
dollars.
buildings, especially commercial buildings, there are these giant rods in the middle of the open space. They're load-bearing columns. They're there to hold weight. So if you walk in to your local mall, you're going to see these giant round columns. It's drywalled. It looks pretty. But you're like, oh, why is this here? It's blocking my view. It's to hold weight. Like there's no way that you can have this massive room and just have 4 walls. Well, the original plan was to have 31-inch thick columns. It's about 2.5 feet thick. And inside, you can't see it because it's covered in drywall, but there's supposed to be 16 steel rods supporting the weight.
Right.
Lee said, let's make the columns less than 2 feet thick because I don't like big columns. I want to be able to see the merchandise.
Oh
and
my
why do
God.
we need 16 steel rods? Let's do 8.
Is this motherfucker serious? So not only is he dumb, but he's stupid. Is you stupid or are you dumb, you bald bitch? You stupid, dumb, and bald. Pick a struggle, bitch. Damn. Why is it always the rich people with so much money that just be dumb as shit? The f out my face. Like, there's mathematics that goes into that, bro. There's mathematicians and architectures. You the whole building up.
This is a huge deal The steel rods are what's holding up the weight above it. People take lack of steel rods so seriously. Recently in Korea, a apartment building company, they put in less steel rods than they were supposed to. They were exposed for it, and now that building is called Boneless Chicken Apartment Building.
Oh,
Yeah.
There's still a building.
Yeah.
wow.
So I think it's up to code, but it's not as good or as much as other builders do. So they're called Boneless Chicken Apartment Building. Because why are you not, like, steel rods, seriously? Lee said that he hated the idea of thick columns, so let's cut it down. But that's not the only thing that he skimped out on costs. So this is going to get really complicated, but just like bear with me, it's so important.
no.
When you have a flat ceiling and a column right up against it, it's called flat slab construction. Or at least in Korean, that's what it's called. It looks modern, it's faster to build, it's cheaper, but it's definitely not safer. It can cause something called a punching phenomenon. Imagine you've got a piece of paper and you're holding it down on a pencil. The pencil could easily punch through into the piece of paper.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, if you were to stick another circular piece of paper on the point of the pencil and then stick another paper on top, it's much harder for you to stick through, even though it's just paper. It's very hard to punch through 2 layers. That's the drop panel. That's what it's called. So think of it as instead of walking through the mud with sneakers, you're walking through with heels. The difference is massive.
Yeah.
Your heels are going to poke into the soil.
Yeah.
But Lee, rich businessman, owner of a crazy lucrative construction company, says, should be okay.
Oh my
He knew
God.
that this was a bad idea. He knew this was dangerous, but it saved him money. So he was all aboard. He said, you know what, it's fine. Columns are strong. But they're not, especially when you take out half the steel rods, like half the skeleton of the column is now gone.
This guy is.
But the worst, the biggest hazard of this whole building was the 5th floor. It should not have existed. The building was not designed to hold the weight of another floor. It sounds like, it's just another floor, but that is an additional 25% of the overall weight added, if not more. That is huge. At first, he told his team, it's going to be for a roller skating rink. Which
What?
honestly would have been a lot safer. Less traffic, not as much furniture. But instead, he said, you know what makes more money? Restaurants. Restaurants are insanely heavy. Commercial ovens, commercial walk-in freezers, industrial-sized refrigerators, lots of water. Lots of water is heavy. Since there's going to be multiple kitchens on that floor, I mean, you're talking AC up there is going to be...
He put the heaviest up there. Oh my God. They just give anyone money. This dumb bald is gonna kill people. Oh, you already did. Oh my God, bro. No, he needs to be in jail. He actually, like, I swear, if we get to the end of the video and it's not behind bars, get me out, bro.
Intense. Restaurants are also more densely packed
He's a
than a
dumbass.
roller skating rink. The entire weight distribution and calculations were going off the walls. You know those big
Just because
Amazon
he
delivery
wanted to.
trucks? Well, the weight of the 5th floor was about 100 of those delivery trucks. Imagine parking 100 of those on the roof where it should not be. That's just the 5th floor. That's not... Oh, and he wanted to do heated floors for the 5th floor, which added 2,415
He was just doing anything. Oh my God, bro.
tons of weight. Just for heated floors. And on top of that, there was even more. So the roof of the 5th floor on Building A were these giant AC cooling towers. They weighed 87 tons each. There's 3 of them. So the total of that, to visualize, imagine sticking 2 houses on top of the roof of a mall that is already unstable.
Wow.
This is crazy. Just on top of the roof. Now, here's where things go really wrong on the roof.
Is there no inspector, chat? Like, they don't get this stuff checked?
So firstly, the AC towers on this specific roof is a death wish. The vibrations that the AC creates, it only further destabilizes the building's foundation. That's what causes cracks, vibration, movement. And so since the get-go,
I'm kind of worried because I have a huge crack running down my wall. I asked maintenance and they said, no, it's fine. But I kid you not, like, chat, if you look at your wall right now, it is a wall in the corner, or it's a crack in the corner of where two things meet, 2 walls meet. And there's a corner that goes from the ceiling all the way down to all the way to the floor. So every time I stream, I might die, but whatever. Hey, if it means I don't pay bills, you can take me out.
like opening day of this mall, they could see the red flags. The vibrations and the weight of the heavy AC cooling towers, they were causing water leaks onto the 5th floor. Because the water would leak out of the AC, there would be a crack, and it would flow through. But the biggest atrocity of what they did on that roof, the AC towers were facing towards a nearby apartment building. All the residents of that apartment building were like, the AC towers are so loud. We're filing complaints. You got to do something about it. So they had to move the AC towers to the other side of the roof. Now, to do something like that, what do? You have to call in industrial cranes. You got to have a ton of professionals on site to make sure that it's done safely and securely. It's a pricey relocation. Lee, very wealthy mogul, said, too expensive, get a couple of dollies.
What?
Wow. So they just scooped it over.
They didn't even scoop it because there's no dollies that can carry that much weight. They basically dragged it. And if you see pictures of that roof from like opening year, there's cracks all over.
They drag the ACs.
And now they move the ACs to the other side. And what do?
They're like 40 tons, right?
They vibrate and cause even more cracking now to even the other side of the building.
Wow.
Now here's where it gets kind of unexpected. This one I wasn't expecting at all. One of the first stores that opened up inside this mall actually contributed to the collapse. A bookstore. Did you know Korean books are even heavier than foreign books because they use a higher portion of stone powder in the paper? A year and a half after opening, the bookstore would be relocated from the second floor of the mall down to the basement because that bookstore was causing so much damage to the building from the sheer weight of the books and the shitty construction. If this had been a well-built building, there wouldn't have been any damage.
So they realized something is happening?
Yeah. There were cracks all over the second floor.
Jeez.
What?
There was bending in the floor. There was drooping in the floor. The floor was tilted where the bookstore was.
Wow. And nobody did anything.
No. The entire building started to lean a little bit. And all it would take would be 20 seconds for the entire building to crumble. And literally not a single part of this rescue was easy.
Jeez.
End of June in South Korea.
Wait. How long did it take? You Stephanie, you skipping around, please. How long did it take for the building to collapse? Because I know they moved the ACs, they moved the bookstore, but like over how long did the building stay up before it collapsed?
A very rainy season. The rain was pouring down on the rescue efforts. I mean, in theory, it might have been good since when a building collapses, there's always small fires trapped inside the rubble. You've got open electrical wires, you've got appliances, and poisonous gas, they start to spread, which, pretty quickly could kill any survivor that's trapped inside that manages to find an air pocket. So the rain, in theory, would have been helpful, but it was just a massive inconvenience. Like, the rain was not enough to put out the fires, but it was enough to slow down the rescuers. Firemen had to come in and try to calm any potential flames. And the first 16 hours of rescue efforts, 5 people were rescued.
Nice.
So there was some progress. And unfortunately, one of the survivors would die on the way to the hospital.
Jeez.
Then, 24 people who were trapped in the same air pocket were rescued. They were pulled out by rope. Nothing was going smoothly. I mean, they pulled them out, but there were still hundreds and hundreds of people that were unaccounted for. And the rescuers were nonstop sprinting from place to place. They're crawling inside of holes that are already unstable. They're shimmying themselves through the collapsed base.
Some greedy bald wanted to save some money. Like what?
A ton of ajumas, middle-aged women, they were too old, too frail to dig, but they created these organized groups and they would cook for the thousands of rescuers every single day.
Ajumas.
But ultimately, the morale for the rescue teams was dying, which sounds bad because, how can your morale die when there's a chance that others need saving, right? But they're working themselves to the edge physically and mentally every single day. And all they're getting after the first initial groups of survivors is bad news. They're just getting bad news. Another body, another body, another body. 10 days had passed. And it's the rule of 3. Do you know the rule of 3?
No.
3 minutes without oxygen, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food.
Oh, shit.
And you'll die. It had been 10 days. No food, no water, limited oxygen, and potentially injuries on top of all of that. The rescuers thought, okay, maybe it's time to go from rescue to recovery. The faster, the better. July is peak monsoon season. It's only going to get worse. We got to go. People said you could smell rotting corpses even if you were blocks away from the site.
Jesus.
They start bringing in the heavy machinery. The chief of police asked all the family members who are still present at that site, come on, we got to do one last go before we bring in the machines. Call your loved ones. We can't hear anyone. Maybe we can hear their phone. And so all of them are standing around with their phone, calling their missing loved ones. And they're just trying to listen, but they can't hear a single thing. The U.S. actually would donate.
I would be mad as shit. I'm not gonna lie to you, because I always keep my shit on vibrate. All you hear is I'll be mad as f. Oh my God. Just imagine my shit on vibrate. Matter of fact, I'm putting on my shit right now. That
These sound detectors to help rescuers find the phones underneath. The Korean government was already equipped with heat sensors, which is typically used to locate bodies.
Whoa.
But the heat sensors, they work with infrared light. And when it rains, the raindrops scatter the infrared.
no.
And it becomes wildly inaccurate. 11 days had passed, and now rescuers were like, okay, no one survived. So let's bring in the machinery.
What about Michael?
Michael thought that he was going to die in there. But on the 11th day of rescue, a rescuer stopped, he blinked, he scrambled, grabbed his flashlight from his back pocket, and flashed it into the hole. Hello? Is anyone there? And he put his ear up against the hole, and this tiny little voice says, I'm here. The other rescuers, they don't even believe him. So he's
No
like, come.
way.
And they all make him say, I'm here again. And everyone starts swarming. 11 days in, they had to penetrate an extra 4 feet of thick reinforced concrete to get him out.
Holy
He
shit.
was out at 8:30 a.m., 230 hours after the collapse. He was carried out on a stretcher, and he
Look
waved
at that smile. Oh, W, bro.
for the cameras. Volunteer rescue workers, they're all cheering, they're all clapping. This was the victory that they needed. They're like, take the machines off. We're going back to hand. If Michael survived, there could be others. Meanwhile, Gia did not share this excitement. She thought she was going to die. For the past few days, the concrete on top of her face was coming closer and closer and closer. It was pure torture. The air was getting stuffier and she felt panic. The walls are literally closing in on her, but in the slowest way possible. She wanted to scream like, oh my God, just squish me already.
Wait, she's the 25-year-old?
No,
Oh.
a different worker, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now, the anxiety of it about to come down was worse than just dying, she said. She was buried in a pile of concrete, laying on her back, so her legs were trapped under a concrete pole. And she was thankfully in an air pocket, but she can't move. So at first, Gia is screaming her head off, hoping that people can hear her. She's like, hello, I'm here. But nobody came. So she just said she kept falling asleep. That's all she could do. I don't know if her brain forced her to sleep. She just said, I kept falling asleep. I kept dreaming that I was home. I just wanted to go home. And I kept thinking, oh my God, my dad is sick. My mom is worrying about me. And now I'm going to be even a bigger burden. 58 hours passed. So like 2.5 days in. Remember the rule of 3? 3 minutes, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. 2.5 days in, she's so thirsty. At this point, she can't even think about anything but her thirst. And water starts flowing. And she takes a sip and she immediately coughs it out.
Oh, what was it?
She had rust water coming in.
Oh.
She waited till more water came in, and instead of letting it flow directly into her mouth because it tasted so disgusting and rusty, she grabbed a piece of her clothing, soaked it in the water, and then just kind of wet her lips with it.
That's smart.
She had no idea how many days had passed. All she knew was she was starting to hallucinate. The part where her legs were trapped.
Bro, I'm not gonna lie. Never mind. I'm not gonna say nothing.
She felt like her legs were walking. She felt like her legs were floating at one point when it clearly wasn't. She was like losing her mind. She was losing sensation in her legs. She just kept going back to sleep. And then the next thing she knew, there's heavy machine sounds and the concrete's just getting closer and closer
She's about to
and
get
closer.
squished.
Would they push the concrete until it completely suffocated her? Would they push the concrete till it squished her? Like, what's going to happen? Would the excavator just come down and rip her up? Her bottom legs are stuck, so she'd be ripped in half. Gia felt terror. Sheer terror. She only had like 10 inches left when all of a sudden she hears a voice. Stop! Do you hear something?
I'll be like,
At around 2 p.m. on the
I'm like, I'm here right here. Cheeseburger.
I'd be yelling like crazy, dude. Oh my God.
13th day,
Wow.
the
13th.
rescuer saw her foot.
Whoa.
And they yelled, "If you're alive, move your feet."
She wiggle her toes?
Gia tried to wiggle her toes, but she didn't even know if it was wiggling because she lost sensation a long time ago.
Oh, no.
And she screamed, "Save me!" The rescuer clawed through the cement by hand, and Gia just remembered thinking, I'm found. She said it wasn't, I lived.
Look at the
Say it was,
rubble
I
on her.
survived. She just thought, I'm found. Good. I don't care if I die right now. Because at least they found my body so my mom will know. Her mom was later interviewed and asked, like, what is the first thing you want to say to your daughter? And she said, do I even need to say anything? And they were trying to ask, like, did you think your daughter was dead? Because it had been 13 days. And they said, did you think she had? And her mom stops the journalist and says, no, I didn't think that. I'll never think that because the day she dies is the day I die.
혹시 죽었으리라고 생각 안 했어요?
안 했어요. 안 했어요. 진짜. 걔 죽는 날이 나 죽는 날이라고 나는.
After 285 hours, Gia was rescued. And at that point, the ceiling was so low, it was touching her nose. She was not even inches, but centimeters away from death. And everyone was like, okay, that's crazy, right? But there's no way there's going to be more survivors. There's only so many miracles that the universe can give us. On the 15th day, another woman is rescued. Let's call her Sammy. She was trapped in a small pocket of air in the children's clothing section. She heard the voice of her colleague
15
screaming,
days, bro.
help me. And she just kept screaming.
I can't even survive 15 minutes, bro. I'm gonna be like, chat, bro, get me the out, bitch. 15 days, chat. Would you be able to survive 15 days?
Panicking. Help me. There's this concrete pinning my waist down. She was getting crushed. And there was no way Sammy could even get to her. And she tried telling her, it's okay, it's okay. But after a day or two, there was no more noise.
No.
Sammy said, all she did was try and fall asleep. She had no idea how long she was in there. Sammy would be the last survivor found in the rubble. There would be no more miracles after that. Before we get to the depressing recovery, South Korea did try to bring up the morale of the country and the 3 survivors. So Michael, Gia, and Sammy almost became these beacons of hope for people. Michael was seen as this national hero for...
That's cool and all. Can we arrest the bald guy? Like, where is he?
not only somehow miraculously surviving in the rubble for 11 days, but also his iconic wave on the stretcher. Companies started offering him gigs to model for them. Schools were offering the 3 full ride scholarships. There had been this stereotype that the younger generation were weak and not as tough as their parents in South Korea, but this was completely obliterated.
True. Yo, let me survive rubble for 11 days. I'm looking at my father. I'm looking at him dead in his eyes. I'm like, you not surviving no 11 days. No water, no light, no food, eating cardboard in the streets. You don't know nothing about that. Word 2, you take out the trash. I'm not taking out no trash. Bring me some food. My fault.
This idea. And just like Michael, Gia, the one who survived 13 days, she made headlines because when she was pulled out of there, reporters asked her while she was on the stretcher, how do you feel? Any plans now that you've been saved? And she said, I want to go on a date with the oppa that rescued me. And people thought it was such an unhinged, hilarious, fun answer to such a serious, depressing situation. The last 3 survivors were asked, what food do you want to eat the most? Michael said, Coca-Cola. I want to drink an ice cold Coke. Gia said, iced coffee. Sammy said, I just want some ice cream. Every soda, iced coffee, ice cream brand went nuts trying to sign these 3 for brand endorsements. Gia also kept making jokes. Like, nobody knew if they could keep laughing or not. When she was rescued, she complained, why'd you guys come so fast? I could have stayed there a few days longer. Let me go back in there. Michael had to have his head shaved to run some tests, and he was so embarrassed. Anytime reporters ran into his hospital room, he would put on his little beanie, his little hat. And I think that these are the stories that people wanted to focus on because the other side was just so dark. Side note, almost all the rescues, especially the ones that weren't immediate, they were all subground level. So they were all in the basement. The other floors, I mean, this is a picture of what it looked like. There was no way that people were going to survive that collapse insane. Unless maybe you were on the roof, which probably not even then. Pyeongo, the magnate working on the restaurant floor of the 5th floor, he was rescued pretty early on. He had made it kind of basically out. I think he was hit by just some debris. And he said, every single person I spoke to that day, the head chef, my colleagues, customers, I would later see all their names written on the deceased list. Another survivor said,
Bro.
I just don't understand the point of life anymore. Like, the people that died, there were nice people. There were really rich people. There were workers like me. There were people who went to church. There were people who studied really hard. Yet everyone died without even a chance to fight for their lives. So what is the point of anything at all? Families of victims said the nightmare was just never ending.
Survivors
I do
guilt?
want to say that the rescue efforts were admirable. The rescuers, they did everything. But the system itself was flawed. Korea didn't have a strong system to respond to these types of crises, which, like, I don't know if they still do with after Itaewon and Seoul, but at the time, it was so disorganized. Family had no idea if loved ones were alive, survived, deceased, at a hospital, which hospital. Nobody had a clue. The site was left open for people to just come and volunteer. And so a lot of people did come and volunteer, but there were also a lot of hyenas. What do you think the hyenas did? They were dubbed hyenas by
They
the
were
media.
stealing shit? What
About
were they
400 hyenas were arrested during rescue efforts. Families are crying. Rescuers are risking their
Oh my God.
lives.
They're stealing stuff.
They're pretending to help and stealing designer
Wow. Piece of
goods. When one was arrested, they just callously responded, well, they were all going to go to the dump anyway. Another man was caught volunteering wearing 10 pairs of designer pants. 10 pairs. When asked, why the hell were you stealing 10 pairs of designer pants? He said, what are you talking about? I was saving lives and I got cold in the middle of June. So I just put on whatever was near me.
Wow.
Meanwhile, Mr. Jung was at work when the building fell. He's an attorney, and he didn't hear about it
That's
until way
heartless,
later.
bro.
He was at 회식 with his coworker.
I mean, like, bro, maybe if you stuck in a rubble, maybe if you stuck in a rubble and you like, oh, some Gucci, let me put it on my feet. I don't know if I can feel them anymore, but let me just put them on my feet. Maybe that's the exception. But if you're gonna volunteer to help people that are dying and you gonna put on some Gucci, get the out my face. Jail. Prison.
And they were drinking, they're eating, and he just had this pit in his stomach when people were like, oh, you didn't hear about the mall? So his wife and his 3 adult daughters, they loved going to that mall. So he calls his wife. She picks up and he's like, oh my God, thank God. Okay, you're home, right? Are the girls home? Did you hear about what happened at the department store? She's like, what? No, the girls are there shopping. Mr. Jung's coworker said that he didn't even say anything. 1 minute he was on the phone, the next minute he was out the door. He ran on foot to the department store and all he saw was rubble. He started climbing on the rubble in his suit, just clawing, looking for his girls. He went to every single hospital in the city. He talked to nurses, doctors, looked at hospital morgues. The day after the collapse, he would be told that all 3 of his children were dead. And he said, after what my wife and I went through that day, I just hoped that the sky would fall and the earth would give out and we would just all die. And of course, he feels for every single daughter, but he really felt for his eldest because she had fought and beaten all odds. His eldest daughter went blind when she was 12 years old.
No way.
She worked harder than anyone he knew, harder than all of his adult coworker, colleagues,
Life is so
attorneys combined. She ended up getting
Lock that bald thug up. That old bald motherfucker.
her master's in special education at UC Berkeley in the United States. She came back to teach special education at Seoulde, which is the best school in the entire country. And her dad said she couldn't see in front of her, but she just always had a vision. And she fought all these odds to be here, and now she's gone. There was another family, the Lee family, and Mom Lee, Mrs. Lee. She was telling her daughter for months, like, give up the dreams of the department store. And her daughter told her, no, if I'm going to be a fashion designer, I can't just rent a small shop anywhere. I have to make a big statement. I'm going to get foot traffic. I know it's a lot of money, but I've saved up my entire life savings. I'm going to rent this tiny little shop. It's my dream. And she signed the
crazy.
lease 2 months before the collapse. And Mrs. Lee said all that nagging she did, completely forgot about it. Because the minute that she saw her daughter in that shop, just how much passion she had for what she was doing, how could she not support her? She was at her shop when the building went down. And this part is so dark, but it feels really raw. A lot of families reported feeling shame and guilt afterwards because they were all there. And when survivors were being found, they would see survivors reunite with their families. And they said they would feel intense jealousy because it's only human. And then immediately they would feel so ashamed for feeling so jealous. And it made them feel so gross. But they had this like, ugh, that should be me. So after the last remaining survivors were rescued, the government decided they needed to start clearing out the debris. They said it was dangerous to just have it out in the open, so they just started moving the rubble to dump sites. And a lot of victims have not been found yet. So families were at dump sites by themselves, no rescue workers, digging through the rubble. At that point, some of them only found bones.
Wow.
And if there was any flesh, they were unrecognizable. This mall had been built 6 years ago. It wasn't even around for, I mean, you go and you look at houses in LA, there's houses from like 1920s still up for sale. So for it to collapse, injuring over 900 people, killing 502 people, and resulting in 40 people that are still considered missing to this day, it doesn't make sense. The public is like, we want answers.
We want
It was revealed that
retribution.
the building was not attacked by North Korea or a group of terrorists. There was no earthquake, no natural disaster. The building went down on its own, so obviously there's some sort of human error. So they found the owner, the Lee family, and journalists start hounding him with questions. And look, the way that this man answers questions does not help him in the eyes of the public. They said, "Did you do a safety inspection on the building?" Mr. Lee said, "Look here. We've got many people coming in and out of this building. Do you really, think about it. Do you really think if we knew that the building was going to go down, we would keep it open? Of course we did safety checks. It was received by the president of the building. I am the owner. I only attend meetings once a week. So you'd have to ask management to clear up those answers." In other words, we have no motive to keep the mall open if we knew it was going to collapse. But as a company, it's not just about injury to customers. It's about company property.
What? Oh my God. Lock that thug up. Please bro, I'm telling at the end of the video, if is not locked up, bro.
He's comparing 502 people dying to losing a mall. I think it's clear what he's trying to say. Of course, everything was great and we knew nothing about this because think about it. From our standpoint, would it be logical to ignore such a big safety concern if it would ruin our company? But the delivery was disgusting and nobody believed him. He would also try to argue that if the building was so dangerous, why was he in Building B when it collapsed?
But he survived.
Building B did not collapse because Building B had sturdier columns because it wasn't a mall. So they didn't need to display merchandise. They didn't have all this heavy machinery. There was no one in there also. They didn't even have the massive AC units on the roof. And this whole argument backfired when it was revealed the reason that Mr. Lee was even in Building B to begin with was because there was an emergency meeting about whether or not the mall should be evacuated. That's what they were doing, debating whether or not to close the mall when the mall collapsed. The meeting lasts for hours and executives were arguing. So Lee and his son, who is the president of the mall, they were arguing that it's going to be bad for business. The board of executives were arguing it doesn't matter because if the building collapses or even if a ceiling falls through and a customer gets injured, that's going to be bad for business. A few executives left mid-meeting because they got calls of complaints by store owners that ceilings were crumbling. Literally during the meeting, they left. They went to investigate. They went onto the rooftop. One of the executives saw one of the columns punching through the roof. He turned to his colleague and said, "Get everyone out now. F Lee, I don't care. Get him out." They were on the way downstairs when the building went down. The other executives and the Lee family were still arguing when all hell broke loose. People are sprinting towards exits. People were being pushed into clothing racks because now you could hear the groaning.
Wait, is this this real or is this a reenactment chat? No, it's not real. It's a recreation.
Hit, you had 20 seconds to get out. Some people were in their underwear just making a run for it. They had been caught in the middle of changing. Now they're booking it.
That's what I'm saying. Imagine being in the middle of a shit and they're like, "Run, bro, I'm gone." With a but I don't care, dude. I'm fucking hog. I'm moving, dude. On God, you not catching me. On God, I'm move, my ass. Bro, I'm gone, dude. Trust and believe. What are you talking about?
If Lee hadn't cut even more costs and had there been more escalators, more stairwells, more emergency exits, more people could have been saved. Because
He
now
was
there
so
was almost
cheap. He was so cheap. There wasn't even a. Oh my God.
crowd crush situation on top of the collapse. A domino effect took over. The 5th floor ceiling fell through, and now it was on the 4th floor, holding the weight. But that was about to crumble, and then soon the 3rd floor, and it would just all pancake in 20 seconds. Nobody had a warning.
Jeez.
It looks like one of those aluminum soda cans that you step on.
Yo, it's holy shit, bro. 5th floor, 4th floor, 3rd floor, 2nd floor, 1st floor, all in 20 seconds. That's terrible, dude. All because some bald billionaire wanted to save a few extra dollars. Like, what the fuck, bro?
One of those aluminum soda cans that you step on. The executives in the Lee family heard. They ran out, ran to the hallway, and it's just a cliff. And they see the building on the ground. But still, Chairman Lee acts like he knew nothing. Okay, whenever he was interviewed by journalists, he would make it about himself. One journalist asked if he had anything he wanted to say to the victims' families, and he just said, "Do you think I wanted this to happen? I have nothing to say." What's crazy about all of this, and
He's so unapologetic. Please tell me he got prison time.
this whole family,
Lock
is
this
that Lee's
dog up!
daughter-in-law, so the president of the mall, his son's wife, was in the building when it was collapsed. She was rescued early on. She refused to give her name to rescuers, and people thought that was weird. The rescuers were like, what? Like, you don't want your family to know that you're okay? Everyone that could talk was giving their name so that your families can find you. But the very next day, they saw that same woman they rescued on the news standing next to her husband and her father-in-law, showing her full support.
Wow.
Wow.
So a full investigation on the cause of the collapse was ordered by the government, and it revealed
Hell yeah.
a lot. I mean, obviously it revealed all of the things that I've mentioned before, but on top of that, Chairman Lee was known to constantly change the interior of the mall, like he was just changing clothes. He would rip out perfectly acceptable lighter wood floors and put in super heavy marble flooring. He did not care about durability. He wanted it to look expensive because more people would come and they would shop, and he would make
Fucking idiot, dude. Fucking idiot, bro.
more money. That's all he wanted. More money. He would knock down interior walls to like make more space for merchandise. And with all the new
He just said,
renovations,
"Fuck the integrity."
there were more
Fuck the building integrity, bro. Fuck the building integrity. Like, what do we need it for? Just knock down this wall, lighter things. Let's just put ginormous ACs in. How about a full court on a 5th floor that shouldn't even be there? Like, what the is he thinking? How do you you actually imagine how much of an idiot and money hungry you need to be to genuinely, one, just don't care about any public safety, but two, how much of a dumbass do you have to be to just change a complete building structure just because you want to? Like, what the
customers. And it's not like the building crumbled out of nowhere. There were literal bright red warning signs that the Lee family and the executives, they were made aware of. 2 months before the collapse, a thin line emerged on the ceiling of the 5th floor. It was more of an eyesore than anything, but every now and then, tinkle, tinkle, there'd be dust landing on people's faces coming from that crack. Like, that's kind of crazy. If you were dining at the restaurants, your chopsticks would slowly roll to the side and off the table because the floor was tilting, but all the customers thought, oh man, what's wrong with this
Holy shit. That's a huge indent.
table? No one thought it was the floor. No one thought it was the building that was leaning. Workers on the restaurant level, they would put in a container of raw veggies on the fridge shelf. It's like an industrial walk-in fridge. They would walk back in and it's like slid all the way to the wall. They'd put it next to the door. It slid all the way down to the wall, like 5 feet down to the wall. Why would it be sliding? That didn't make any sense. The floor of the 5th floor was tilted at a 15-degree angle.
15.
The tilting got so bad the 5th floor restaurants had to be closed. They requested civil engineers to be called in for an inspection. And the main person that called was Lee's son. So he's there with the inspectors. And they're like, this building is in imminent danger of collapse. The only option that you have in situations like this is to evacuate, close the entire building down, and we can game plan on what the next steps are.
So
He's
they
like-
already know this before.
Way before. like 2 months before. And he's like, okay, let me think about it. He didn't think about
What
it.
is there?
Instead, he hired workers to just hide the cracks by adding more grout and plaster. He was like, as long as the customers don't see, because this month was crucial for them. June and July were the summer sale months. This is another illegal thing that they're doing. In South Korea, you can only have a sale for 2 weeks. I don't know why. I guess it's so that stores can't like try to manipulate you into like buying things, right? 2 weeks. The sale is scheduled for July when everybody else has the sale. But the Lees were like, we can be smart. We're going to get our VIP clients early access. So we're going to sell them the product since they're our VIPs, we know them. And we're only going to run their card at the sale prices in July. But they can come during June. And they had a lot of VIPs. So June was a very busy, high traffic month for them. Crazy busy. 10 days before the collapse, a customer was sitting at their table on the 5th floor to eat, and the whole thing started shaking. She said it was so strange. She thought it was an earthquake or something. But when she told her friends that we're not the mall, they were like, what are you talking about? There was no earthquake. There was nothing on the news. 5 days before the collapse, another customer was on the 5th floor eating when it felt like someone doused a bucket of water on their head. And she's like, what the hell? Looks up. There is like a droopy hole. It's not even just a hole, but like a part of the ceiling that's drooping down at the end. There's a hole. The employees were made aware of it. They tell upper management and they're like, it's just Samsung's shitty construction. They did not think that water leaks were even in the same possibility as a building collapsing. The night before the collapse, the security guard noticed the sinkhole in the roof, and he called Lee's son and was like, sir, there's a literal sinkhole on the roof. And apparently the son went himself to check it out, and while he's standing there staring at this giant hole, one of the managers of the restaurant comes out and is like, hey, I've been trying to call you for ages now. Look at this. Look, can I show you something? They walk over to one of the columns on the 5th floor near his restaurant. There's an 8-inch long crack that's knuckle deep. But that's not even all. The manager is like, I've been waiting for this, okay? I'm paying all this money. And look at that ceiling. Look at that ceiling above the kitchen. It's droopy. And look. He puts his phone on the counter, like the cash register of the restaurant. It slides off. He's like, I know it's not my counter.
Holy
so
shit.
What's going on? Lee's son checks his watch. He's like, shoot. The stores are about to open for the day. Okay, just why don't we close down all the restaurants on this floor? I guess if you want to stay open, you can stay open, but it's fine. Close down. We're going to figure it out. We'll send up maintenance or something. Maintenance workers were sent up, and they're like, guys, this is going to go down. Like, under no circumstances can we put plaster on anything anymore. Like, it's going to go down. Lee's son left the building for about 30 minutes before he was called back in, this time to the 4th floor. A shop owner said, I just heard these like really crazy like tuck, tuck, tuck noises. And then the whole floor shook for like 3 minutes. They're like, isn't that right, Susie? Like 3 minutes. And Susie's like, yeah, 3 full minutes. Lee's son is like, okay, let me investigate, right? Before he could even figure it out, water starts pouring down the walls of the 5th floor. That's why they turned off the AC units. He said, you know what? Don't close them all. Turn off the AC units and drain the water inside.
Is this motherfucker serious? Oh my God, bro. These motherfuckers, it's so negligent. It's crazy.
Of them, because that's what's leaking. And then 4 hours
They're just putting
before
Band-Aids on Band-Aids on Band-Aids on Band-Aids on Band-Aids. They're not evacuate people, tear down that fucking piece of building and hire someone to build it correctly. Are these motherfuckers serious?
Yeah.
They sent the maintenance workers and they even told him to shut them all, and this mother effly still left them all open.
It's insane.
Collapse. Evacuation orders were given. Lee's son said, let's focus on what matters. Don't tell the customers, but let's take out all the priceless goods. Paintings, artwork, jewelry, ancient pottery, super expensive bags. Let's take it out just in case. We don't know.
Take out the expensive artwork. Yeah, not the customers that have. Oh my.
It could flood. It could do something.
I can't watch this anymore.
Employees, they were not evacuated. They had no idea they were in a compromised building.
They need to go to jail.
Unbelievable.
They gotta go to jail.
Guy's doing everything in his power to kill people.
Why did they not evacuate? Because the mall was bringing in about $400,000 a day. And they said, we can't lose out on that. Many of the victims died on impact. Others suffocated to death. Others bled out. Some starved to death. And a lot of them drowned to death. When firefighters were trying to put out the fires inside the rubble, the water came in and filled their air pockets. Some of the other survivors could hear them drowning, and the firefighters that worked that scene, I don't think it's their fault. I think they did their best considering the information and tools they were given, but they still have PTSD. They have nightmares about it. They said they will carry around the guilt for the rest of their lives. In the end, the court sentenced Lee Jun, the chairman, to 7.5 years in prison, and his son got 7.
502 dead, 40 missing. You only get 7 years. How the does that work, bro? He killed, they're like that. Oh my.
You look so shocked, right? But this was actually a big deal. This is what's even crazier about this case, okay? Is the fact that, to me, I'm like, 7 years, that's nothing, right? In Korea, this was landmark. This was crazy that they got 7 years. I mean, people, don't get me wrong, people were still upset it wasn't enough, but a lot of people being very cynical, skeptical, and just realistic, they weren't expecting the Lee family to get any jail time. Not saying that they didn't deserve it, but that was the track record for the government. The reason why they got a lengthy jail time, lengthy quote, is really dark. It's a high-end department store. A lot of the victims were wives of influential businessmen.
Wow.
To just name a few, and not saying
so the only okay, I'm not saying it's like okay. The only reason why they even got 7 years was because there was rich people that died there. You know, RIP to the lives lost and. But like, so corruption fought corruption, I guess. It's only because other rich people died. That's so fucked.
That these people's lives hold more value, but to give context on whose families were fighting for these offenders to get jail time, wife of Samsung Electronics president, wife of Daewoo Motors president.
Wife of the Samsung
division, electronics division.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, advisor to Samsung Motors and former head of Korea's customs service. Advisor to Samsung Engineering and Construction, executive for Hyundai Engineering and Construction, wives of high-powered attorneys, judges, and doctors, a judge's mother. I mean, these were just a few to name.
Jeez.
Many of these were the upper echelon of society. These were the elites.
And they still only got 7 years.
Yes, and the worst part is netizens speculate, had this been a middle-class mall or a lower-class mall, they probably would have gotten no jail time.
But why though? What? How is that?
Yeah.
How? Like.
I guess it was a blame shifting game. So Lee's family would actually shift the blame on government workers that they bribed. So they would say, "Hey, we didn't pass our safety inspection, but just say we did." And about 30 government workers were fired and arrested as well. So because there were so many people to blame, it became this game of like, who's really at fault? Was it the
the motherfuckers that made the mall? That's like the bare minimum. If we're gonna hold anyone accountable, yeah, hold them up that got bribed accountable, but the people that were literally put, oh my.
Keeper, the government workers that didn't make sure that the safety inspections were up to date. Was it the I don't
send all of them to jail.
Yeah.
500 people died.
I agree.
Exactly.
Lee was 72 when he got out. He died a year later, so we're not too sad about that. Meanwhile, Lee's son, Jun, is one of the very few families in South Korea, many we've talked about, that are basically socially exiled. They're legally allowed to be in Korea, but he is said to have been spotted living in Russia. We don't know for sure, but like the minute he steps foot in South Korea, I mean, nothing's going to happen.
So he's still around right now?
Yeah.
But he's free?
Yes, but I think that he has no money. Really? I don't know if he had a lot of hidden money, but the family's fortune was completely liquidated and given to the survivors and victims' families. It's estimated that each family received around 250,000 because there's a lot of people, which honestly is nothing compared to the life of a loved one.
True.
But trust me, this is not a story where victims' families get closure. 500 plus people died. Like, that's a tragedy that is going to be felt nationwide. I mean, think about the spider web of people that are either directly or indirectly impacted by this level of loss. Well, the president of South Korea was asked to say something to the victims. And he said, The collapse of this Hampung department store today was 21 days ago. I wish for peace for those who lost their precious lives. I pray for the speedy recovery and for those who were injured, and I express my condolences to the families who suffered an unexpected accident. Thank you. He's at his podium, okay? He stands still for maybe 2 seconds, and he thinks that the camera is off now. And he turns to his aide and says, that should be enough, right?
감사합니다.
Oh. Yo, chat.
It wasn't even in the tone of like,
fucking
oh, do
president.
you think I should say more? Like,
It was
that-
like, no, that shit looked like, it was like, is that enough? Cause bitch, I'm hungry. I want to go to Wendy's. Like that motherfucker had no remorse, no empathy, no none of that shit. He was just, yeah, sorry for your loss. Damn, I could really use a McFlurry right now. Let's go ahead and go to McDonald's. I'm so excited to go. Like, bro, I swear to God.
did I convey my emotions correctly? It was like a 됐지, like I did it. Happy?
Wow.
Let's go.
He doesn't care.
Yeah.
Crazy.
A lot of the victims' families were upset at the government and even the rescue operations, not the rescue workers, but the operation. They felt like the government wanted to throw some money at the victims' families, start cleaning up the rubble, and make use of the land again.
Wow.
The victims' families requested a memorial. Not to give a comparison, but later on this comparison does come up a lot in Korean media sources.
Okay.
But like 9/11 in the US, I mean, that is crazy real estate if you think about it. That is prime real estate. But out of respect for the tragedy, there is a memorial there. You go there to, you remember these families, you remember these victims, everyone that lost their lives. But
Kinda like
the
out of
government said,
respect.
this is such a good area of Gangnam. It's like center. Like every time someone drives through here, they're gonna have to be reminded of that. And like, what about the real estate prices of all the people who spent so much money on condos nearby? It's gonna go down
You're lying.
if we have a memorial here. So they said, we'll give you a memorial. So the family said, okay, then can you give it to us at this park? That's a very famous park that people love to go to, and it's a beautiful park. We can go there and spend time with our loved ones. But that park is so pretty.
Are they?
It would be
Oh my. They're shameless. This government is crazy.
so depressed if they go there and they see 500 something names. What about in the woods? They literally
What?
gave them a memorial in the middle of nowhere.
What?
Like just in the mountains.
They just said, here, take this
And they
somewhere.
built a luxury apartment building where that, yeah.
Wow.
Sampo department
I
store?
hope that shit is haunted. I hope f***ing cabinets is open and closing, lights is flickering and shit is happening all crazy. You just hear oh, in the f***ing background and no one lives peacefully in them ass apartments.
Yeah. One of the victims' families was interviewed and the mom said, it's money, money, money. Building costs this money. Cleanup costs that money. Compensation costs money. Let's give money to the victims. Everything is about money
all they
and
care
nothing
about.
is about my child.
Mm.
Remember Mr. Jung? Speaking of money, he lost 3 daughters in the collapse, and his eldest daughter was the blind professor at Seoulde. He was compensated over $600,000 for the loss of all of his children, which is nothing. And he gave it all to the Seoul National School for the Blind.
Wow.
Over the course of his life, he would donate more than $1.3 million to churches, schools, and charities that his
Love you,
daughter
Dad.
liked. And he would say, money to me is nothing that I can have. My daughters all had dreams to make the world a better place, and I just have to fulfill those dreams before I go.
Wow.
And Gia, the one that survived 13 days, she said, I just hope people can learn from this. That no one should ever have it won't happen to me. It doesn't concern me attitude. Because tragedy doesn't really pick people to happen to. It can happen to anyone. It can happen to your child that waved goodbye to you before school, or the husband that promised to be home for dinner. I never thought something like this would happen to me, but it did. And that is the story of this Hampung department store collapse.
That was a lot. That was a lot. That was a lot. That was a lot. I don't know. Yo, YouTube comments. I don't know how you feel about that. If you want more Rotten Mango videos, we reacted to a few of them.